Here's an investing fact. Strength begets strength. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Semiconductors continue to lead, biotech is beginning to stir, and the Russell 2000, tracked by IWM, is finally showing signs of life. Hello traders, and welcome to Market Edge Ahead of the Trade. I'm Owen Larson with Mission Winners, and in this episode we're going to break down where the money is flowing, why base breakouts still work in 2025, and which elite institutional stocks are quietly preparing for their next move. We'll start with the ETF landscape. Pat Walker takes us through the major sectors, highlighting clear strength in tech-related names like SMH, HACK, and IBU, while also pointing out warning signs in energy, real estate, and healthcare. If you want to stay ahead of the trade, you've got to know which sectors are gaining traction and which ones are just treading water.
So we look at the ETFs. Why? These are groups, industry groups. We're looking for strength. We're looking for money. Weekly on the left, daily on the right. Let's take it from the top. This is the energy ETF. And what does it tell us? On the weekly and on the daily, it's in a downtrend. See that? It's easy to see. If you have to look for the pattern, it's probably not there. I used to teach that at the IBD meetups for years. Folks, it's in a downtrend. Be careful with energy stocks. Let's move on. First, trust Dow Jones Internet. It's in an uptrend on the weekly. It's in an uptrend on the daily. Had a simple base breakout right there on the daily chart. What was it telling us? Had another simple base breakout right here. It's showing strength, and it has been showing us strength. And that's why we're involved with technology, and I hope you are too. It was telling us to. Beautiful part, we don't have to forecast. Get in line with what's going on. Let's move on. What do you say? IBD 50. This is the proxy from the newspaper, and it's a good proxy as far as the IBD 50 stocks. They're leading quality growth stocks, and it's trending up nicely on the daily, and it's trending up nicely on the weekly. And it broke out of a longer base right here, and it's telling us, and it was telling us, hey, you might want to start looking at some growth stocks back in here. Not today. I mean, yes, you could today, but in here. We watched this, and this is why we have been involved and are involved in stocks. We own them. Continue onward. Gold miners started to lift up, but it was a gap up. It was a gap up. Be careful with gap ups on the daily. Gapped up, and it's reversed down. Not showing a lot of power at this point in time. It's still in an uptrend. You can see that on the weekly, but we need to see a little bit better, safer, tighter entry on a daily to get involved with that at this point in time. Same thing's true with GLD, a little bit choppier there, a little bit cleaner base, as you can see, but a lot of gaps in here now. Before, there weren't too many gaps. If you look here, it was relatively tight. You see that right there? And now, let me refresh it again. But now we got a lot of gaps, gap ups, gap downs, whippy, back and forth. That indicates high investor emotion, folks. Be careful with that. High emotions are not good when it comes to investing. So it is basing nicely, but let's let it settle down a little bit. That's GLD. Continue onwards. There we go. Cybersecurity's been in a nice trend here. Technology related, right? And look at the trend on the daily. It's been telling us for a while, hey, you can punch up HACK, H-A-C-K. Look at their top 10 holdings. I guarantee you'll find some opportunity, or would have found some opportunity. At Mission Winners, we don't want to just give ideas. We want to teach and educate. Hey, what to look for. What to look for in the charts. That's how money's made. And that's what we do. Biotechnology's picking up. Little base right across here. I'll draw this to help you. Going across here. And it's the same thing true on the weekly, as you can see. Same line. What does it need to do? Lift up here with volume. One slight negative, a lot of overhead supply here, folks. Tons of overhead supply, okay? That means that the odds are every time it goes up a little bit, it's going to be met with selling. You can say, well, Patrick, who's selling? And again, this is stuff a lot of people don't know. You think there's people that bought this here and still own it? Yeah. It dropped and they go, oh my God, what happened to me? And then it comes back up near their price. It gets near their price, and what do they say? Thank heaven I was getting killed in it. I'm back near my price. I'm selling. And that's called overhead resistance, overhead supply. That helps us be a little cautious. There's tons of overhead supply here. It's going to be met with a lot of selling on the way up. Also, always be careful with biotechnology. Now, looking at this base right here on the daily, Again, if it takes out that top with volume, potential buy, but always knowing on a weekly chart too, and on the daily, you've got overhead supply. Let's move on. What do you say? Here we go. Oh, look at this, online retail. This one doesn't look too bad, does it? Look at that nice base on the daily. Look at the nice base on the weekly. Picking up. Not a lot of volume, but it is a decent base. You can punch up IBUY and find out what their top 10 holdings are. Something to look into. Doesn't look too bad. Continue onwards. Technology. See, have you noticed how many times, you see the common theme? Oh, this does software technology. Oh, this doesn't look too bad on the daily. This doesn't look too bad on the weekly. It hasn't looked too bad. It's been acting decent. That's why we've been involved. We're heavy in technology at Mission Winners. We own a lot of technology-related stocks. It was telling us to. That's it. This beautiful part again. No forecasting. Just get in line with what's going on. Let's continue onwards here. Medicine's picking up. I like this downward sloping trend line right here on IHI. If it lifts through there, you could look to buy this if it has good volume and a good market, right? Or maybe some medical stocks. You can punch up IHI and find out their top 10 holdings. There you go. Let's move on. IJH, mid-cap. Not a bad base here on the daily. Not too bad on the weekly either. Mid-caps are acting okay. That's good to see. Let's move on. Aerospace and defense. Look at this nice trend on that. Look at the trend. This is the 8-period exponential moving average, folks. I'll say it again. Trends pay more than anything else you'll do. That's a nice trend. Just get in line with it. Okay? Now, it is a little bit extended, so be careful. But even way back here and back here on the weekly, it was saying, hey, maybe there's something going on here. And again, trend up the ADMA. Trends pay. There you go. And you say, well, gosh, I didn't own it. You'll own the next one. That's why we do this, is to help. A lot of people, successful people do something, and again, this is part of my background with psychology, etc. Turn negatives into positives. Say, oh man, that's a bummer. Yeah, but you know what I'll do? I'll learn from it and I'll get better next time. How about that? There you go. Home construction's kind of lagging here. You can see it on both the weekly and the daily. Be a little cautious with that. Growth doesn't look too bad. S&P 500 growth, lifting up on the weekly and on the daily. Look into some growth stocks. It tells you there's an area to look into. Small caps are starting to even pick up a little bit. Look at the base IWM. Look at the base breakout here. What does that tell us? Maybe I should look into some small cap stocks. But do note there's a lot of overhead resistance here on the weekly. Okay? But it does tell us something. The rally spread out into other areas. There you go. They're strengthening there. Real estate. Look at this base on the daily. Possibly take that out. That could be a buy. Or you could look into some real estate stocks. You could punch up IYR, top 10 holdings, and see what's in that ETF. There we go. Continue onwards. Transportation. It's just forming a great big cup with a handle. Doesn't show a lot of power yet. Okay? But it doesn't look too bad as far as in the basing process. Does it look good enough to buy yet? No, it hasn't triggered. Also, it's just basing on low volume. You'll need to see a lift through these tops with volume. The volume equal to power. Airlines, look at that. Jets. Nice long base right there, folks. That's a cup and a handle. Approach this pivot line right here. Need to see some price action with volume. But it does tell us airlines are improving. They're getting a little better. Maybe look into them. Banking is still it's in a longer base. It's got some power here, but not a lot, okay? Kind of choppy. Just needs to show some real power through these tops up here, folks. Right up here. I'll draw the line to hell. There you go. Just got to watch it and see if it can lift through there. There we go. Seems to be better fish to fry. Okay, insurance doesn't look too bad. Nice base across here, as you can see. And again, this is an important message. And I taught this at the IBD meetings. It doesn't need to be a simple flat line. It can be a gradually sloping, downward sloping line on a daily chart or a weekly chart. By the way, this is a great investing fact. If you really have to look for it, pattern, it's probably not there. If you really have to look for it, other people have to really look for it. Why not look for patterns and master patterns that are easy to see for us and for everybody? Oh, that looks pretty easy. Everybody sees it. Increases the potential they'll buy. Isn't that what we want? Remember this. Charts are a reflection of human emotions and human decision making, and it's all reflected in the charts. And simplicity is a good thing. Insurance doesn't look too bad. Regional banking, a little choppier. It's okay. All right. It's just basing is what it's doing. All right. Mid-cap doesn't look too bad either. Nicer long cup and a handle right here. Take this out. What does that say? Well, as I stated, mid-cap doesn't look too bad. Look into them further. Oil services really lagging. I mean, look, let's do a compare and contrast. Well, that's kind of near the highs on this move up here on the daily. Fire, that's way down there on the daily and the weekly. What's it say? Stay away from oil service stocks. Pharmaceuticals picking up a little bit. Doesn't look too bad, but tons of overhead supply on the weekly. Be careful with the pharmaceuticals. QLD doesn't look too bad, does it? It has a nice longer base right there, working off here. And on the weekly, it had a little baseline right there. I'll draw this so you can see what I'm talking about. There you go. Just a little baseline there. Similar baseline right here. And it's lifting up. Notice this, though. Even when it's going up, it goes up and it reverses down on a pickup in volume. A heavier selling volume bar here, 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 and here. Heavier than the buying volume bars. We need to see some power here, okay, in the NASDAQ 100 ETF. Same thing's true with QQQ. RTH doesn't look too bad. Just a nice longer cup and a handle right in here on the weekly, or a base right here on the daily. Retailing, near highs. Not too bad. Maybe looking at some retailing stocks. There we go. Cloud computing. Oh, that had a nice lift through here, right? And look at the volume that came into it. Technology related. Let me think about that. Gosh, technology. Yeah, it seems like Pat's kind of mentioned technology a couple of times in this video. Yeah, it works. It works. Organization helps us. Let's move on. Here we go. Silver. Popped up right here, lifted up, and followed through. Now, here, it looks good on the chart, but it's gappy. Look, there's a price gap here. There's a price gap here. Big gap here, big gap here. It's whippy. It's not fluid. It can go up. Oh, look. Oh, it's going. This is it. Oh, God, they took it down. Wait, no, this is the time it's going. Oh, gosh, they took it down. Okay. Be a little careful with that. It's harder, a little choppier. Steel doesn't look too bad. Look at the base right there. Lifting up. By the way, look at the volume on that bar. Serious institutional volume on that bar with steel. A lot of overhead supply on the weekly, but steel is improving. There we go. Let's continue on. SMA, semiconductors, technology related. Look at the nice long base and it's lifting off. Not a lot of volume yet, but it is improving on the weekly and the daily. Semiconductors. Yes, primarily NASDAQ stocks. There you go. Same thing's true with SOXL. Spider's picking up a little slower and ponderous right now. It has not kicked into overdrive yet. Hopefully it will, okay? You look at this and say, well, I'm not going to do anything. No, I just showed you some ETFs and stock. They're working, and it's our job to find them. And mission winners, we do. We've got systems and tactics for screening, what to look for and what to do, and it works. SSO, the 500 again, picking up a little bit, needs more power. Solar, well, it doesn't look too bad, but look at the weekly. Tons of overhead supply. And look at, oh, it runs up and drops like a rock. It runs up and drops like a rock. And it does it here and here and here and here. It's being met with a ton of overhead supply. Be careful with that, okay? Let it settle down. Stay away from it right now. Small cap picking up a little bit, but a lot of overhead supply. By the way, folks, have you noticed? This isn't fancy stuff, what we're doing. We're just looking at the charts, price and volume, and analyzing it and getting in line with it. At Mission Winners, we do this. We teach this all day, every day. And it helps us make better investing decisions, be safer, and make money. Oil's picking up a little bit here. A lot of overhead supply, though, folks. Tons. Be careful with that. Continue onwards. Aerospace and defense having a nice move right through here. Look at that. Look at the trend of the ADMA. Isn't that beautiful? This is the 50-day simple. This is the 21-day exponential. This is the 8-day exponential, and trends pay. Now, it's extended now. I'm not saying buy it now, but you just look and you can say, well, there was a base there, and it's just kind of marching on up. There you go. Another very important lesson right here. You saw this. Remember this, folks. Just because it's a green bar doesn't mean it's a good bar. Just because it's a red bar doesn't mean it's a bad bar. You say, oh, that's a red bar on heavy volume. They sold the tar out of it. I'll make this bigger to show you something. This is what I used to teach at the IBD meetups. Folks, look, it gapped down, it fell, and closed near the highs. They didn't sell it. They bought it on increasing volume. At first glance, oh, it's a red bar. It's a selling bar with bad volume. No. Always note the open, high, low close on each bar. It will help you make better investing decisions, make more money, and be safer too. There we go. Biotechnology picking up a little bit, but a lot of overhead supply. Be a little careful. Biotech, home builders, chopping around here on the weekly and the daily. Be careful with home builders. Materials is picking up here a little bit, but overall it's still kind of sloppy. Ton of overhead supply. And by the way, I'm not going fast here to be funny. I'm just saying, this is my deep, profound statement for the day. If it ain't there, it ain't there. Here you go. Simplicity. XLC, Communication Services, is picking up a little bit. It's trending decently. You might look into that and see if you can find anything on XLC. In that industry group, energy's really lagging still, not a lot of power. Financials are picking up a little bit. Company handle right here on the weekly. I'll draw this to help. Right there, same similar line here you can see, watch. I'll do this to help you. There it is. Similar line. There you go. So, and again, this is weekly on the left and daily on the right. Just a nice longer base. Let's cross these tops. It is company handle with volume. Something to consider. Industrials acting okay. See that? Look into some industrial stocks. Technology. Doesn't look too bad here. Hold on a second. We'll refresh that. There we go. Doesn't look too bad here. It's trending up a little bit. And it's been trending up decent here on the weekly. Yeah. Do we own some technology-related stocks? Yeah. It was telling us to. We own leaders. There you go. By the way, when I see leaders, I mean leaders fundamentally and leaders technically. Stack the deck in your favor. We want the best of the best. Also, great screening tactic I use and taught for years. Focus on stocks with a composite rating, preferably over 90 or higher. Okay? It could be 88, but it will increase your probabilities of making money. I love it. Here we go. This is doing nothing. Consumer staples, there's nothing there. It's just going sideways. Move on. And again, I'm not being funny, trying to be funny. I just pointed out, folks, there's nothing going on with it. Why study it? Let's get to where greater opportunities to make money. Utilities just chopping around. Doesn't look too bad, but there's no clean entry. The good news with this, though, is this is a defensive and it's interest rate sensitive. It's not plummeting right here. It's telling us the interest rate market is not bad. It's not a negative in relation to the stock market. Stocks do not like raising interest rates. That'll help you. Healthcare, there's no, look at the daily, look at the weekly. Stay away from healthcare. They need healthcare. There you go. Consumer discretionary, I'm going to refresh this real quick. Hold on just a second. There we go. Weekly on the left, daily on the right. Consumer discretionary has a decent base across here. I'll clean this line up just a bit for us, just to show you. There, just kind of a cup with a handle. What does it need to do? This ETF needs to push through that line with volume, but it is a decent base. Now, this is the daily, but then you look at the weekly. I'm going to make that a little bigger so it's easier to see the bars. There was some selling pressure there on that last weekly bar, so be careful with that. I want to say this too. I said it before. I say it every session that we have doing this. Have your charts tight enough that you can see the price and volume action clearly, but don't have it so tight that you can't see anything. Like, oh God, I don't really know what it's doing here. Oh yeah, it's in a downtrend. I'd like to understand the nuances. Spread them out enough so you can see the open, high, low, close on each bar. That will really help you. XME, metals and mining, steadily grinding up. Looking at some of that. Oil's still just basing here. Oil and gas needs to really get a push. Till it does, be careful with that. Retailing steadily grinding up. Doesn't look too bad. There we go. Software hitting highs for this move. Doesn't look too bad. Are we involved in software technology? Semi? Yeah, we are. It's been telling us to.
So the story this week is one of quiet expansion. Semiconductors are pushing higher, software and cybersecurity continue to act well, and even the Russell 2000 is starting to firm up. Meanwhile, laggards, like energy, home builders, and utilities, are still stuck in the stall zone. In this kind of environment, breakouts from clean bases are where the real opportunity lies. That's what this week's tactical playbook is all about, how to catch the move without chasing. When it comes to finding base breakouts, the key is simplicity. The best setups are the ones you don't have to squint to see. Pat says it all the time. If you have to look too hard to find the pattern, it's probably not there. That's because great setups are obvious not just to you, but to institutional buyers as well. And when they step in, they do it with size. That's what creates power, and that's what we look for. This week, we saw clean bases across multiple ETFs, including SMH for semiconductors, HACK for cybersecurity, and IBUY for online retail. Each of these formed tight, well-structured patterns and followed through with volume. The formula is simple. Find a tight base within 20% of a 52-week high, avoid setups with excessive gaps or high emotion candles, and wait for the volume to confirm. When you buy, do it as close to the pivot as possible, or don't buy at all. Chasing price leads to stress. Clean entries give you control. And that brings us to the real power of this approach. You're not guessing. You're not forecasting. You're letting the chart speak, waiting for the pattern to confirm, and then acting with confidence. That's how we've been catching the moves in NVIDIA, Meta, and even mid-cap names setting up through IWM. It's not magic, it's just discipline. Now let's shift to the max list, where many of those leaders are already making their moves. If leadership is going to emerge, it tends to show up here first.
Max list stock. And it's just basing here, downtrend on the weekly, right? It's just basing here on the daily. There still isn't a lot of power. Just look at the chart, going sideways. Also, more red bars than green bars. Red is selling bars. Green is buying bars. You just glance and say, there's not a lot of buying going on with it. Good, good. Move on. Don't overthink it. I will say this, though. It is basing here, and maybe it'll eventually take off. Okay, but right now, nothing really there. Now look at Amazon. Amazon picking up. Look at compare and contrast. There's Apple. Just kind of doing nothing. There's Amazon. Oh, gosh, it had a base up here. And look at over here, lifting up. We bought this. We're in this. And what are we looking for? Taking out these tops here. And here's the weekly. What do you see here, folks? There's a cup and a handle right there on the weekly. And there's some volume accumulation in there. What do we want to see? Push through these tops with volume. By the way, you see that little green hash mark? Yeah, I already have a price alert set. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it's going to go, but I am saying after looking at a lot of charts through years, this is a valuable setup when it triggers to make money. But never argue with price. If it does go up and reverse down, remember, always control risk. There we go. I'm big on that. Kept me in the game for decades. Even when I'm taking a ton of money out. Okay, Amazon, direct seeing, picking up a little bit, just like Amazon. This is a lower priced way to get in it. Okay, and you can see there's the weekly. And here's the daily. Similar base, isn't it? There you go. Way to get in, if it breaks through there, to get in Amazon with a lower price. Okay. Alibaba, there's not a lot of power with Alibaba on the weekly or the daily. You can see. So just don't overthink it. It's not there. Move on. BIDU, not a lot of power. Leave it alone. Goldman Sachs. Now do a compare and contrast. Here, look at this BIDU on the weekly. That looks kind of crummy to me, Pat. I agree. There's nothing going on there. Let's move on to the next one. And you can say, oh, that doesn't look too bad. It's kind of basic. Kind of looks like it's forming a cup and a handle. I agree. You can see it on the weekly too. on the daily right here. Take this out. Weekly, daily. Watch Goldman Sachs. There you go. What does it need to do? Push through this line here on the weekly, which corresponds with the daily. Push through with volume. There you go. That's a MAXLIST stock, by the way, too. Well, look at Google. This is forming a company handle on the weekly and on the daily. And there's a little bit more, look, right in here. There's a little bit more buying power than selling power. It needs to push through this top up here with volume. Now, I'm going to give you a great lesson here. I've taught this at the IBD for years at the meetups. Folks, right here. Oh, it's a green bar on good volume. Notice where it opened, right there. And then it runs up, and notice where it closes. Near the lows of the day, it was met with selling, okay? Well, you can see it. Look where it opened and look where it closed. That tells you something. Hey, be a little cautious. There's seller up there. We need to take this top out, and we need to take it out with volume. That right there is $1 million lesson. There you go. Continue onward. MasterCard slowly grinding up here. It's tentative. It's tedious. It can't push away, okay? But it doesn't look too bad on the weekly or the daily. It's something to watch this week. MA. Meta. See that simple base right there? You go, God, that looks pretty dang simple. Looks pretty simple right here on the weekly. That's the same line, by the way, okay? It's just transposed to a different time frame. Yeah, simple base. Simple base. Watch this. Love teaching this. Oh, gosh, that looks like a company handle there, Pat. Yeah, and it broke up. Yes, it was on the key list. Yes, it's bought. Yes, it's owned. And what are we looking for? Add more. Here we go. But we want to see good price action, good volume action, and a good market. But there it is, folks. There's the simple base. There you go. Continue onwards. By the way, if you don't own it, please don't chase it up here, okay? You're chasing price. Very important lesson for everybody. Buy close to the pivot or don't buy it at all. There we go. Microsoft's steadily picking up. Doesn't look too bad. No real clean entry at this time, but it's grinding up. Tells us improvement in the markets. I like that. Netflix. See the simple base down here on the weekly? And here it is on the daily. There you go. And this was by here, and run. It's 200 plus points right there. Simple basis, and it works. Look at the weekly. Look at the volume that came into it. Look at the volume coming into it on the daily. They were voting. Remember this. Volume tells us, again, other people see what we see, and they're voting on that baby. We like that. There you go. It's in great shape. We're letting her work. Continue onwards. NVIDIA. I like this space on the weekly. We own it down lower. True, full disclosure. Oh, by the way, I want to tell everybody this. This is important. Please never think Pat's talking his book and trying to get us to buy stuff. No, I don't do that. I'm just pointing out opportunities for you to make money. That's all. Okay? It's immoral to talk your book. I don't do that. Yeah. Do we own NVIDIA down lower? Yes. Am I pounding the table? No. Only if it's a great setup. But I'll also say that it's a great setup. Hey, even if I didn't own it down here, by gum, I'd be buying it if it breaks out. There we go. And again, on the weekly, it's a simple base. Same thing is true on the daily going across these tops. I'll shrink this so you can see what I'm talking about. Right there, folks. I'll draw a line just to help you. There you go. Well, it looks like a pretty simple flat line right there. Basically the same line here. Okay, what do we want to see it do? Make this bigger. Needs to push through that line in a good market with volume. Remember this also. Mission winners. The M in mission winners is the first letter, right? Markets, mission, markets, industries, sectors, stocks, institutional support, outstanding management, outstanding product, or outstanding service. And the N in mission, never say never. Keep going. Mindset. A positive mindset is crucial for success in many facets of life, including investing. But there's NVIDIA. Let's continue onwards there. NVDL. This is, Granite shares. It's another way to get in NVIDIA across the tops. And it's lower priced. I mean, this is 140 and this stock's trading around 59 bucks. There you go. I personally like NVIDIA more. That's just the way I went. Now look at Tesla. Tesla runs up. We owned this. Back here, check this out. Well, it looks like a pretty simple flat base right there, Pat. Yeah, look at the volume that came into it on that bar. Yeah, we bought it. Runs up, starts to get squirrely here and starts to drop. What do? We sell some into strength. Not at the top. You're not going to get the top, but you can see it runs up, reversal bar here. Oh, look at this bar right here. It gaps up and runs up and reverses down and closes near the lows. Ooh, I better be careful. Oh, the next bar starts to drop. I'm going to pick up in volume. I'll make this bigger so you can see it. Right there. That's what you do. We sold some into strength. Starts to lose more. We sold more. That's it. We made money on the deal. We're out of it. Now, eventually it could change and we'll be ready. But for right now, I'm glad we're out of it. By the way, I'm not getting political with, everything going on between Elon Musk and President Trump. No, it's nothing like that. I'm just looking at the chart. I'm looking at the chart. There's a tremendous amount. In fact, I'll say this, folks. Most of the news that we need is in the charts, okay? But I am big on knowing earnings and sales numbers. And also, for everybody, knowing the earnings dates. That's compulsory. Know those earnings dates, folks. Also know this. Many foreign companies report earnings before the open. You don't want to have that surprise where you come in and go, oh, this stock's got earnings today, after the close. Oh, God, it's gapping down. What the heck? Oh, they had earnings in the morning because they're in a different time zone. Be aware of that. Just to help you. There you go. Tesla's just kind of sloppy here right now. Nothing really to do with it. So we just sit tight and wait. Same thing's true with Direxia and Tesla. Another way to get in Tesla at a lower price. But there's nothing to do with it. Leave it alone. Visa, I like this kind of a cup with a high handle on the weekly and on the daily. It's something to watch going forward. It's Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. There you go. Facebook, Direxia, that's an interesting one. Okay. Granite shares. Picking up here, it's kind of like Meta.
That wraps up this week's episode. Huge thanks to Pat Walker for another sharp breakdown, and to you, as always, for tuning in. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out missionwinners.com for the key list, educational tools, and real-time alerts to help guide your trading. Master your strategy, trust the process, and maintain your edge.
I am here in the middle of nowhere. There is no there, it is cold there, but